With VRRP, preemption is enabled by default. Therefore, you typically won't run into the issue whereby preemption is the reason why your router that you expect to be the virtual router master is not the virtual router master. However, if somebody disables preemption, then that is a very likely cause for that router not being the virtual router master. Even though it has the higher priority, the reason why it's not the virtual router master is because somebody disabled preemption. And if that was the case, to turn it back on, you type in VRRP, the group number, and then the preempt command in order to turn it back on. However, I want you to realize that preemption only matters with VRRP if the virtual IP address is not the same as an IP address on one of your routers. Let's look at DSW2. Show run interface VLAN 20. Notice here that our IP address is 10.1.1.66. That's the IP address configured on interface VLAN 20. Notice the virtual IP address is the same. Therefore, we are the virtual router master because we have the highest priority. When you have the same IP address as the device, you automatically increase your priority to 255, the highest it can be. Notice I shut off preemption here. No VRRP 20 preempt, meaning we're not going to take over the virtual router master role if somebody else already has it. However, let's look at the output of show VRRP. It says we are currently the master and preemption is disabled. Our priority is 255. Let's shut off our interface. Interface VLAN 20, shut down. This means that DSW1 should become the master. Let's go to DSW1, and it is. We type in show VRRP. We can see that the state is the master. There's the virtual IP. Preemption is enabled on DSW1, but it's shut off on DSW2. Let's bring back up this interface. Now, you would think, well, since you shut off preemption, Raymond, you said it's disabled. That means that DSW1 should remain the master. And no, it doesn't. You see what happened? We immediately became the master. And the only reason why this is true in this case is because of this right here. This IP is the same as this IP. So we are always going to be the master if we are up and operational, regardless of whether preemption's enabled or not. You go back to DSW1, you can see it demoted itself back to the backup state. So let's see what happens when we're not using the IP address of the interface. So interface VLAN 20, let's say, not standby, that's HSRP. So VRRP, group 20, IP is going to be 10.1.1.67. Let's just change that. We'll do the same thing on DSW1. Let's go over to DSW1, configure terminal, interface VLAN 20, standby, not standby, VRP 20 IP 10.1.1.67. All right. So we can see right now from the output of do show VRP that we are the master, preemption is disabled, priority is 100. We go to DSW1, show VRP. We are backup, preemption is enabled, priority is 100. Let's see here. Let's increase the priority on DSW2. VRRP 20 priority, let's increase it to 105 because we want to have the higher priority than DSW1. Because when we shut down our interface and bring it back up, we want to see that even though we have the higher priority in DSW2, since preemption is disabled, it won't take over in this case. So let's just double check that do show VRRP. All right, their priority is 105. On DSW1, priority is 100. Same IPs of 10.1.1.67, 10.1.1.67, and those are not the IPs on any of the interfaces on DSW1 and DSW2. So let's shut down interface VLAN 20. Let's give it a moment here. Let's go over to DSW1. We can see it promoted itself to master. Now when we go back to DSW2 and we bring it back up and those hello packets keep going back and forth between DSW1 and 2, notice it does not promote itself to the master even though it has the higher priority. It doesn't. Why? Because preemption is disabled. But you see the difference here? If you're using the IP address, if you're using an IP address of a router interface as the virtual IP address, then that router becomes the master, and no matter what happens, it always makes itself the master. Always. Even if preemption is disabled. So preemption really only plays a role with VRRP if you're using a different IP address than one that is already assigned to a router interface. You have to keep that in mind. Because even though preemption was disabled originally in our discussion, that wouldn't be the cause of the problem for that device not being the virtual router master. There'd be some other issue that's causing it not to be the virtual router master. Why? Because its priority was 255. It's using the same IP address as the virtual IP as one that's on its interface. So it would automatically be the master no matter what, even though preemption was disabled. So you have to keep that in mind. That's a little tricky with VRRP because you have the ability to either use a real IP or an IP that hasn't been assigned yet to a router interface as the virtual IP. It behaves slightly differently. So keep that in mind. But preemption is enabled by default. So the odds of running into preemption being an issue with VRRP is slim unless somebody has disabled it on you.